Fortune, Mikhail, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Fortune, last time we spoke, you just completed the Yellow Dragon acquisition. You've done a lot of consolidation. Tell us more.
Yeah, that was December last year, 2017, when we acquired Yellow Dragon Holdings stake in Bushveld Vanadium Limited. Remember when we bought Vametco, we did it in partnership with Yellow Dragon Holdings. We're a minority with 45% interest. So the acquisition of Yellow Dragon was an important step towards getting proper control of Vametco. We completed that in December. It was a reverse takeover transaction. Subsequent to that, we also indicated that we were looking to simplify and consolidate the corporate structure to bring us much closer to the cash flows of Vametco. Key to that was the acquisition of Sojit's interest in Strategic Minerals Corporation, the 21.2%, which I'm pleased that we agreed terms and we completed the transaction in September, acquiring them for $20 million, which essentially then sees Bushveld now with an effective shareholding of 74% in Bushveld Vametco Holdings.
And for your interim results, you've also released a solid set of numbers.
That's the beauty of being able to consolidate Vametco's numbers into our numbers, so you can see the impact of a cash-generating asset like Vametco. And the revenues are solid at £62 million for the first half. EBITDA of £31.7 million, representing about 50% margins. Our earnings per share of 1.14 pence. Also very, very solid, and with free cash flows of about 10.2 million pounds. So the first half numbers have been really solid. Yes.
Now that's obviously been helped by the vanadium price.
Certainly, the vanadium price for the first 6 months averaged about $65 per kgV. I should mention that they've continued to go up. We're currently sitting with vanadium prices of about $110 per kgV. So yes, that is a very positive impact, and they help. But let's not also lose sight of the fact that Vametco is a low-cost producer. For the first 6 months, the cost of production was $20 per kgV. It's a little bit more than what we had anticipated, but still among the lowest cost producers of vanadium in the world.
So the vanadium price obviously helped, as you mentioned, but you've also completed a multi-phase expansion program.
The expansion project for Vametco is absolutely key, and we announced that we're going to be doing a 3-phase expansion project to take our production capacity from 2,800 to 5,000 tons per annum. We've completed the first 2 phases of that, which increases the production capacity to 3,750, and phase 3, which we are in the early stages of now, at least, will see us go all the way up to 5,000 tons. That's very important for a number of reasons, chief of which is that as we increase our throughput in the plant, we lower our cost of production. We already are one of the lowest cost producers. The first half numbers showed about $20 per kgV. We think we can bring this number significantly down by increasing throughput in this plant. And secondly, we're operating in an environment of high vanadium prices, as you would know. Increasing our production of vanadium is obviously going to help our numbers even further.
Fortune, you must be relieved that the strike action is now finished.
Very relieved about that. Look, the strike was based on issues that we inherited when we took over Vametco, but issues that we need to address all the same. We think that employees are a very important stakeholder for us, and the idea that they should share in the success of Vametco is one that we agree with, which is why we've made the commitment that we'll look to put in place an ESOP structure for the workers going forward.
So what impact will that have had?
Any strike will have an impact. It has an impact on your production numbers. Again, in an environment we're operating with high vanadium prices, and it's never something. It's something you never want to do because of the lost revenue opportunity. But we also think that let's use the opportunity to make sure that for the long term we establish solid, mutually beneficial relationships with such an important stakeholder, and that's certainly the attitude that we've taken towards it.
Now moving on to the Brits exploration program, what can you tell investors?
The proposition of the Brits project has always been that, yes, we've got a lot of resource at Vametco. We've got, in terms of resource, 100 years of of life based on the current mining rate. But we see the proposition of Brits in that it gives fresh extensions of the ore body. You've got on surface mineralization, which means that you've got further options to mine cheaply on surface. But beyond Vametco, I think the point I would emphasize is that we've been clear also that our growth strategy goes beyond Vametco, and Brits project gives us the ability to produce significantly more ore tons that can be processed not only at Vametco but also potentially at other facilities.
Now, Mikhail, moving on to you, it's been a busy period for Bushveld Energy. Tell us more.
Yeah, it's quite a bit, but let me focus maybe on three things. Maybe the first one is on the electrolyte plant. We've picked a location besides purification, in addition to purification work that we'll be doing at Vametco. The mixing plant will be located in the East London development zone in South Africa. We've actually already started the EIA process, environmental impact assessment, that is required in order for us to start construction. Second thing is on the battery, the first project that we have with Eskom. We delivered the battery earlier this year. We did run into some commissioning issues tied to the electrolyte. And that has to be kind of externally solved, but we'll restart that in November, and the battery should be operational before the end of this year, so that's still quite good. And then finally, we've seen a lot of progress in the market in South Africa as well. The Integrated Resource Plan, the government has finally come out with a draft version of that update. It calls for a lot more renewables, no nuclear. Coal has kind of been decreasing in that as well. It also calls for gas, but it also allows storage to actually be part of that same services that gas would usually provide in terms of peaking support and things like that. And we're quite excited about that opportunity.
Mikhail, you mentioned that you're in a great place to take advantage of the redox flow battery energy marketplace. But the high vanadium price, what impact does that have?
Well, it could potentially have some adverse impact. There might be a couple of companies that are still using a very kind of traditional model of how you sell a vanadium battery, which is you take all that vanadium and you make it as part of the capital cost. That makes it very expensive given today's prices. But really the shift in the industry has been away from that, to take advantage of the benefits of the technology, one of which is the fact that the vanadium doesn't degrade. It's a reversible reaction that happens chemically. So in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, you have the same amount of vanadium in there as you have on day one. That opens up a lot of business models around that, specifically leasing or renting out the vanadium rather than selling it, which means you don't have to recover the full costs, which means that the upfront costs are a lot lower, but also the levelized cost, the total cost of ownership is lower to customers as well. We've been focused very much on that from a product point of view. It's a great opportunity for us from as a new product, but also to actually accelerate the adoption of the technology and really lower its costs, not just now, but even in the future, regardless of where the vanadium price goes.
So your strategy, is it still on track? What impact does it have on your mandates?
As I mentioned, kind of the South Africa specific market, but it's not just kind of our opinion. We've recently been awarded a grant from the USTDA, which is the U.S. Trade and Development Agency, specifically for the project at Eskom and for the development of vanadium redox batteries in South Africa. So there's a lot of external support. And just the other week, for example, the World Bank has announced a $1 billion program that they will support, and it's supposed to mobilize another $4 billion in other DFI and private sector funding, really to deliver 17.5 gigawatt hours of energy storage, specifically batteries, and not in developed countries, but they're only targeting that amount for low-income and middle-income countries, just like South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, which are the markets that are closest to us and that we've always said we're going to focus on.
Now, Fortune, back to you. You made it very clear that vanadium is your strategy. What impact does that have on Lemur?
Yeah, we're very clear. Vanadium is the focus of the company. I think that point we made very, very clear. But it doesn't mean that Lemur doesn't have any value. Lemur strategy has always been, we've got a coal deposit there, and we secure a power IPP license so we can generate power. And as an integrated mine to power generation play, it actually is a compelling case. So a lot of the work has been in the last 6 months within the power space. We secured a PPA with Madagascar government, initially at 10 megawatts, which has been increased to 25 megawatts, a concession for 60 megawatts of power generation. An EIA work is underway, bankable feasibility study for the power project with the assistance and support of Power China is also in progress and will be completed soon. The idea here is that once you've got a bankable project, a mine and power project, you've got a project that can attract the debt financing and gives you a lot of strategic options in terms of what you do with it going forward. Whatever we do, we want to make sure that we are not throwing away value for our shareholders, but we also want to make sure that Lima does get the necessary focus it needs, both from a management as well as from a capital allocation point of view. And these things that we've been doing are critical to ensuring that it's got the best chance of success in that respect.
So Fortune, finally, where is the focus of Bushveld?
Vanadium remains the story, the first focus is making sure that Vametco, which we now consolidate and as you can see is a strong cash generator, we want to make sure that Vametco is an efficient operation. Efficient meaning it does realize its potential to be truly a low-cost producer. It currently is a low-cost producer, but it can get even lower than that. Key to that is achieving or executing successfully on our expansion projects. Taking Vametco to 5,000 metric tons of vanadium production per year will not only create additional revenues and profits for Vametco, but it also improves Vametco's cash position significantly. So that's quite important. Beyond the 5,000 tons, we've also mentioned that we're looking at growth beyond that, and brownfield assets remain an important part of that strategy. We continue to look for opportunities that allow us to increase our production multiple times quickly and at a fraction of the cost of doing this on a greenfield basis. That has not changed. We've said we want to be north of 10,000 metric tons of vanadium producer per year. The market opportunity is there, and we think that opportunity is particularly suited for primary producers like Bushveld Minerals. So that's the growth story in terms of what we've termed the horizontal growth. That allows us the platform to then do the very exciting things that we talk about in the energy space, as Mikhail explained, which is to secure a significant portion of the energy storage market, which not only strengthens the demand profile of vanadium, but in its own right is a very attractive commercial opportunity for us. That's delivering what we've been always talking about, which is a substantial, low-cost, vertically integrated vanadium platform.
Well, Fortune, Mikhail, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.